Imagine walking into your bedroom and seeing yourself. Not in the mirror, not in a photograph, but just standing there, waiting, watching. Every detail of this person is an exact match of your own. Dark brown eyes, long blonde hair, and they even have that same freckle on their left cheek. When your eyes lock on one another, their eyes darken and their smile slowly turns into an evil grin. What would your next move be? Hi, I'm Landrey, and that's Shae, and we are Sisters of the Strange. So, I hope that was a good new intro for y'all.
Changing it up a little bit.
We're just seeing. But Shae has a very nice story to tell. I wasn't sure if I was going to ask her to tell it or not. And then I was thinking about it on the way here. And then I pulled into her driveway and I got a sign that I should tell her. And so now she gets to tell you.
So this was, what, a week ago?
About a week ago.
Oh, a week ago.
I think. Yeah.
I know I've said it before on here that I hate driving in the dark because if anything is alive or move or anything moves, if I see anything move, I'm screaming and I'm getting scared and my parasympathetic nervous system is like, get out, run, like heart rate up, can't breathe, sweaty. So I just hate driving at night, but I am also a night shift worker. So I drive home at night at 3:00 in the morning, 3 times a week. So things are just.
Yeah. And it's not just like a small drive.
It's a long drive.
It's like an hour.
Yes. It's a long drive and most of it is through nothingness in the middle of nowhere. So anyway, I was listening to our Haunted Doll episode because I listen to all of our episodes after they're posted because I'm not fake. And 2 of my friends had already listened to it on their way into work that night. And so they were telling me how scary it was and how much they liked it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go back and listen to it. So I was listening to it. It is scary. It's freaky. Dolls freak me out. And I was almost home. I was probably like 5 minutes from my driveway and I'm going down this dark road where there's nothing but trees around, nothing on the roads. I see deer occasionally and like possums and skunks and, you know, wild critters, and they always scare me. And I see like something moving to like my right side of the road. I can like see some movement. And I'm like, okay, it's just an animal, Shae. Like, relax. It's fine. Don't freak out. It's probably just a raccoon or something. And I get closer to it. And as I'm driving by it, it stops moving and it's staring right into my soul. It was the biggest goat I have ever seen in my life. It looked like it was as tall as my car. That's dramatic, but it was huge. I live by lots of goats. There were goats in my driveway today when Landry got here.
Yeah, that was my sign.
They are not that big. It was ginormous. And it would just stopped and stared at me. And it had these huge horns that went back. Huge. It was completely black. The whole thing was all black. There was no color on it. All black. I could see its glowing eyeballs and it was giant. I immediately get on my phone to record a Snapchat to send to Landry because I was freaking out.
She was shaking.
I was physically shaking and I almost started crying when I was telling the story. Like,
yeah, she was emotional.
You could see my like eyes watering. I was terrified. And I told her in the video, I said, thank God that it was on all 4 feet. Had that thing been standing on its back legs, eating a leaf or trying to jump over a fence, I probably would have jumped out of my vehicle.
With the goat?
Yes. Like just passed away. I'm gone. Leave me here to die. I was so scared. I was legitimately freaking out. And it sounds really stupid now that I'm saying it, but
no, I would have been terrified.
It was honestly horrifying.
I'm like, I lost my shit one night. I was listening to a scary podcast and saw a raccoon in the road. I
Right.
lost my shit because it just like whoop, and I wasn't ready.
Yes.
And I screamed and like, ah. So
yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was terrifying.
But I normally answer her Snapchats like immediately, even at 3 a.m. For whatever reason, I will be awake. I don't know. I sleep very randomly, but like I normally respond to her very quick. And my husband was home, so when he's home, I don't really check my phone as much, or like it's not as easy to like listen to a Snapchat because when he's home, he has the whole week off, so he is quite literally always around me, and I don't open as much. I don't know. I just don't pay as much attention.
Y'all are visiting. Y'all are enjoying each other.
Yeah, like I only see him like 1 week and then I don't see him for 2. So, but I didn't open it yet. And she texted me. She was like, you're going to die laughing when you open my Snapchat. And it had been like 10 hours. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to go look at this. I was like crying laughing.
It was so
but I
bad.
also, like, I would have been terrified too. I would have been like, you're kidding me right now.
Oh, it was so scary.
Yeah.
I'd never seen a goat that size in my life. Still to this day, a week later, still haven't seen a goat that size.
Joke's on you. It wasn't a goat.
I'm still not convinced that it was a goat.
That was a man.
Oh.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, so maybe I saw Goat Man. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, he didn't get you.
He didn't. He looked into my soul.
He looked at you and he said, she's spreading my word. I like her.
Yeah.
We're going to let her go.
You're a real one. Love you, Goaty.
Thanks, you goat man. Thanks, yous.
Thank yous for sparing me.
Yeah.
He's like, if I see you around here again, though. Exactly. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah. Oh, he's like, actually, I followed you home. I know where you live.
Mm-hmm.
He's like masquerading in the field with the other goats.
Yeah.
Now.
He's yeah. Ooh, no.
He lives in the camper. Random camper.
He's in the barn.
Ugh.
Oof.
Ugh.
That I have to see every night.
Scary! All you're going to see is his eyeballs. Peeking over your kitchen counter.
Not a fan. Yeah, not a fan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I love to just cause havoc. That's actually, I was saying that yesterday because I was going to post a Snapchat or a TikTok about it and then I didn't. But I get called sir all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I going? Why was that important to me? What did I just said to you? Oh, I like to jack with people. Yeah, that's where I was going with that. And so like in my video, I was like, I just kind of like to mess with people though, because they'll call me sir. Like they'll over email. They're like, I'm sorry, Mr. Duff. And I'm like, well, I'm a woman, but I don't say that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really bother me. I just think it's funny when I get the opportunity to like see them face to face or over a Zoom call or like a phone call. And I'm like, hi, I'm Landrey Duff. And they're like, oh, no, oh. And you can like see it across their face like, oh shit.
My bad.
I'm just a jackass. I just like to.
It's okay.
And like
Wreak
not in a
havoc.
mean way. Like I think it's hilarious. I just
Yeah.
like to.
Chaos.
Yeah. I feel like that makes me sound like a bully. I'm not a bully. If I realize I'm hurting your feelings, I'm like, I'm so sorry. But that kind of works. The little goat man situation you got going on, because I said, thankfully, he's not, a man. So I was originally doing research for skinwalkers for this week. And then I decided I was not ready for skinwalkers yet because their lore and background is so heavy. And I just want to make sure that I'm like, one, respecting the culture that they come from in the right way. But I also there's just so much behind them that I'm like, I need to do more than what I've done.
Yeah.
Like I need to dig deeper. So I did not do that. Instead, I switched just gears to something very similar, which is doppelgangers, mimics, changelings. I'm not talking about changelings because they're not exactly in the same category as doppelgangers and mimics. And skinwalkers aren't either, but they get grouped together quite often because you think of just like shape-shifting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like skinwalkers. I've said their name like way too many times, but it's fine. They shapeshift, essentially. They are a person or like a witch in their lore or in their culture, and they can shapeshift. Doppelgangers and mimics aren't shapeshifters. They are like entities that just copy like your physical attributes or someone else around you. And then changelings are more of, they're like what fairies will leave. Have you ever heard of changelings?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, but I'm not super familiar.
So a changeling is like a baby, and the fairy will come and take that baby and then leave their baby that's like got some like, most of the times in the lore, it's like they have like an issue. And so the fairies want the human baby that's like perfectly fine.
Oh,
It's weird, but
interesting.
so that's kind of what a changeling is. So, but they do the same thing where it's kind of almost like a mimic. It's not an entity, it is, but they like make it look like an exact double of your baby that was already there. So
Interesting.
So that led me into just being ready to do doppelgangers and mimics, basically, because we've already actually recorded a mimic episode in the very beginning, like early days, and I didn't like it, and I think it ended up not being long enough, maybe. There was something to where I was like, yeah, we're not using it.
I remember that I think you just weren't happy with the stories that you had initially picked.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, we're not using that. And it creeped you out. I remember it creeped you out. And then we also have recorded doppelgangers already too, but I didn't like how it went either. So we're just changing it up. So Shae knows a little bit of like the information, but not necessarily the stories. So I had asked Shae last time what comes to mind when she thinks of doppelganger.
Vampire Diaries.
And I had already pretty much written that. So actually in Vampire Diaries, their version of a doppelganger versus Lore's version of a doppelganger is nothing. I mean, kind of in a way of like a bad omen and like seeing Catherine or Silas or whatever was like, I almost said stylus. Silas or whatever. Those were bad versions of, not versions, they were the bad bloodline of Stefan and Elena. So they weren't really actually even a copy of Elena or a copy of Stefan. They were just like an ancestral plot situation. And so they kind of have like the evil thing going for them there. But I don't think all the doppelgangers were evil. Like Tom wasn't.
Tom wasn't evil.
You know, so they didn't really portray it right. But they did have like the fact that the same actor and actresses is playing the same person. So, I mean, they got the exact copy part right. But aside from that, not really. Doppelgangers in our culture or our lore or like our times is more of, I want to say, an entity. And it's just an entity that can turn into you, basically. And we'll get into it because we have a lot of theories on what we think a doppelganger could potentially be. We'll go through stories and stuff like that and then go over kind of the theories of what our brains led us to believe after the stories. But to me, it's more of an entity. It's not a ghost, I wouldn't necessarily say, unless it's like a future ghost coming back, because the people that it haunts are the people that are alive still. So it wouldn't be that person's ghost. Shouldn't be.
Correct.
So my storyline today is basically going to be starting with doppelgangers. And those are all like historical accounts, really. There's not really any modern day accounts of doppelgangers because I think that they've been merged in with mimics. So then we'll kind of merge into mimics, what they are a little bit, and then go into stories about mimics. I'm just letting y'all know. So if y'all get kind of bored in the history, it's not really history, but the historical figures, if you get bored there, there's more like modern day stories at the end. So stick around.
But the historical stories are,
I think they're very interesting, but I'm also like...
We're also kind of history nerds.
I never liked history in school, but now that I'm doing a podcast and I can choose what history I want, I love history.
Yeah, same.
Never liked it before, though. Okay, so our first person to experience their spectral double is actually, very surprisingly, Mr. Abraham Lincoln. So Abraham was the 16th president of the United States. He led the nation through the Civil War, abolished slavery, and helped shape the future of our country. But behind the tall man in the top hat lies a lesser-known truth. Abraham Lincoln was fascinated with the supernatural. This side of our president isn't found in his marble monument or textbook stories. So he actually, from what I understand, didn't really believe in religion like at all. He didn't understand the faith and how everyone was like really involved in it until the Civil War. After that, his campaign and things like that started turning more religious. From what I understand, I could have been interpreting it potentially wrong, but it took until the Civil War and him being like in his presidency for him to like start to lean like on Christ and stuff. Which was very interesting to me. The second thing that introduced him into this side of the world was the death of his 11-year-old son, Willie, which actually was the second son he had pass away. He had a son pass away at like the age of 4. And then later on, he had this son, Willie, who passed away at the age of 11. And this death devastated him and his wife to where his wife started having seances and introducing spiritualism to him. So she was introduced, her name is Mary Todd Lincoln. Mary was introduced to a well-known group of mediums and took such comfort in the seances that they were doing that she began to host some of her own in the White House. So there's actually a lot of, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, we'll have to do it one day, but there is like, the White House is apparently very haunted.
Very haunted, yeah,
like,
I have heard that.
His spirit haunts, like Abraham Lincoln's spirit apparently haunts there. I mention it here, but she did seances in the White House in a certain room, like multiple of them. And so there's apparently a whole lot of lore behind the White House as well.
Interesting. I believe that.
I mean, think of how many people and families, and when you're there, the amount of energy that
is created. Like
being the president. Can you imagine the amount of energy and like what you're always doing?
Residual energy.
Just wrapped in that.
Yeah, for sure.
But these seances brought her so much peace that she once told her sister, Willie lives. He comes to me every night and stands at the foot of the bed with the same sweet, adorable smile that he always had. He does not come alone. Sometimes little Eddie, her other son who passed away, is with him. I don't know if she was dreaming it or if that's what brought her comfort, like placebo effect, but she really believed in what they were doing. Lincoln himself was known to be in some of these seances, quietly experiencing the happenings. There was like articles that said he would be in the room, but be kind of like just in the shadows, like maybe trying to figure it out, maybe being a little bit skeptical, but he was there. And it is said that during one of these seances he participated in, he saw a piano levitate.
Oh, interesting.
That's heavy.
That's heavy.
That's heavy.
You can't just fake that.
No. Lincoln had 2 different premonitions about his death. The first premonition was a dream. In his dream, he was wandering through the White House, following the sound of mournful sobs. Room after room, the crying grew louder. Finally, he entered the East Room where a body laid covered with a sheet and guarded by soldiers. He asked a soldier who had died, only for the soldier to respond with, "The president, he was killed by an assassin."
That's crazy.
That's a scary dream.
Mm-hmm.
If I woke up as the president, I would have been like, so how do I resign immediately?
Yeah. Show me where to sign.
Yeah, where's the dotted line at? Because I'm out. His second premonition came by form of seeing his own doppelganger. Shortly after his first election in 1860, Lincoln was exhausted from the chaos of the election and went to lay down in one of his rooms. When he was laying down, he caught a glimpse of himself in a nearby mirror. In the mirror, he saw two reflections. One was his face, and while the other was also his face, it seemed paler and more disturbed. The vision caught him off guard, so he jumped up and looked further into the mirror, only for his double to vanish. Thinking he was losing it, he laid back down and looked in the mirror once more. To no surprise, his double was back. He was never able to replicate the event after that. He shared the story of seeing this double with his wife. She took this interaction to mean that he would win a second term and that the paleness of the second face meant he would not survive it. The story was later recounted by Lincoln's friend and journalist Noah Brooks, who claimed the president told it to him personally, down to every last detail. So Noah is the one who wrote the original article and all of this that is for people, like for the public. It wasn't Mary. She might have told people, but he's the one who's like...
Put it out there.
Yes. But unfortunately, Mary's interpretation proved to be heartbreakingly accurate. On April 14th of 1865, just 3 months into his second term, Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth. So was his vision his own ghost traveling back in time to warn him of his misfortune to come? Or was it an evil spirit messing with the man who potentially opened his home during the seances when he was trying to speak to his lost sons? Or is it just a doppelganger and we haven't figured out what the heck a doppelganger is yet?
Yeah, we don't really know what a doppelganger is.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, we don't know yet. That's also part of the reason we're re-recording this episode is because last time our brains were so fried and we were tired on trying to, well, both of us had 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But our brains were so like, it could be this, it could be this. We know it's an entity, but what if it's this? And like, we'll end up getting there.
We'll probably still get there because I
but
probably will still believe the same thing.
I know my brain is still just like, but I don't know. And Shae also last time it was really weird is I was like, Abraham Lincoln, isn't that surprising? And she's like, the weirdest thing is that he was on my TikTok page this morning. Why I never see anything of him anywhere ever.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, this is interesting. There was this guy that was going through this old museum of like health and science or something. And they have a bunch of bones and like dissected bodies and things. And one of the pieces that they have there is pieces of Abraham Lincoln's skull and the bullet that assassinated him, allegedly. And so that's what had made me caught my attention because his tagline on the top of his video said Abraham Lincoln's skull fragments. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm going to watch this. Absolutely. And there's like little pieces of it. And there's he was talking about how there's some scientist somewhere doing some kind of research that's trying to extract the DNA from those skull fragments to prove that it is Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
And so whenever she was like, first person we're talking about today is Abe Lincoln, I was like, literally an hour ago, I just watched this video.
Yeah.
So weird.
And that's in the research when you look up like Abraham and his doppelganger. One of them is like the story of him seeing his doppelganger. And then the other one is the theory that he's not actually dead because there was someone that still looked exactly like him that was alive and seen across the world after his death. And so that's, I think, what they're trying to prove is that it was actually him who got shot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. They're like, okay, everybody relax.
Yeah.
If we can get this DNA,
we can prove this.
Everybody can chill out.
Yeah.
We're not cloning people. Wink, wink, the government.
Yeah.
Oop.
I'm like, do I want to go there? Because I've got way too much on my brain in that. Okay, so my next story is a French man, and I did look up how to say his name this time, but I'm still probably going to say it completely wrong. So,
yay!
It is Guy.
Oh,
yeah, Guy de. His middle name is De. No, it's Guy. Like Guy is his first name. I read it as Guy originally, and then it's De, but it's read as De apparently because it's French. And then Maupassant, which we had that right.
We did get that right.
So it's Guy de Maupassant.
Ooh, oui, oui.
Oui, oui. If you can tell, I watched Emily in Paris.
Parlez-vous français? Is that how you say that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know merci beaucoup.
I think parlez-vous français? Do you
that?
speak French?
Oh,
I think.
Maybe. Guy de Maupassant was a famous author with over 300 stories written and a handful of novels. One of his stories, La Orla, has made itself extremely popular by how bizarre it is. It's about a man who becomes convinced he's being haunted by an invisible entity, something that has slipped into his home, attached itself to him, and slowly begun to hollow him out. The man becomes obsessed, terrified, and ultimately unhinged. His final act is one of desperation. He tries to destroy the being, and when that fails, he turns on himself. If you can catch the vibe of what that means.
Mm-hmm.
It's a disturbing tale, but what makes it even more disturbing is how it was written, or rather, who helped write it. Because according to Maupassant himself, he wasn't the only one in the room. He claimed he had a visitor, not just once, but often. A figure that looked exactly like him, down to the clothes, the posture, and the expression. Maupassant said that sometimes he'd come home and see his doppelganger already sitting in his favorite chair. One afternoon, Guy was writing in his study, which was a room his servants had strict instructions never to enter, when he heard the door open. He turned around, and there his exact double stood. His doppelganger slowly walked in, placed his head in his hands, and started speaking. Guy wrote every word that the figure said. When the double was done telling the story, he stood up and walked back out. And that story is what we know today as La Horla. La Horla, I'm not completely certain. Now, while it is easy to assume, since he is a writer, that he had a wild imagination and it just made for a creative mind playing games with itself, but Maupassant himself admitted that while the hallucinations were happening, he was not frightened. It was after the fact, when he'd think about what happened, that he would get freaked out. So his quote was, "I know it for a hallucination, even while experiencing it. Curious. If I didn't have a little common sense, I'd be afraid." But Maupassant himself started to suffer from neurosyphilis, which is a disease that can slowly eat away at the brain. Over time, he became more paranoid and more erratic. He believed flies were nesting in his skull, and he started to isolate himself. Eventually, just 5 years after La Orla was published, he tried to take his own life. He failed and was placed in an asylum in Paris, where he died a year later at the age of 42. So, my questions for him are, was Guy de Maupassant's doppelganger a figment of his collapsing mind, a trick of the brain, a symptom of the disease? Or was it something waiting, not just watching him fall apart, but guiding him there? And if so, what was the benefit of the doppelganger? Like, what would they get from slowly tormenting him and tearing his mind apart?
That's a good question.
That leads us into one of our original theories, which was, is a doppelganger another version of yourself in a parallel world that wants to take over your life? So they're evil and they come over here, but then your paths would, the timelines would have to intersect for them to get here for that. Or is a doppelganger an evil entity? Like demonic type situation? Mm-hmm. Or is a doppelganger just an entity completely of its own? Or we talked about, does every single person have a doppelganger?
Right. I feel like that is so what's the word I'm looking for?
Realistic.
For everybody to have a doppelganger, I feel like is unrealistic. But my big question still is, if the doppelganger is an entity of its own, what is the energy that produces that specific entity?
Yeah.
You know, because you can summon
a demon
or other entities, spirits, whatever. But what summons a doppelganger? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like if there's like an event in someone's life that's like, okay, this triggers that.
Yeah. That's where my brain is stuck on this whole thing.
But our next story is also very creepy. This is the one that I think kind of makes me feel the most weird, probably. So this is the very strange and popular case of Emily Sige. Emily was a 32-year-old French woman who worked at a Latvian boarding school from 1845 to 1846. Emily had blonde hair, blue eyes, and was described to have a quiet but anxious disposition, which means she was very quiet, but she was very jumpy and jittery, basically. The school she was working at had 42 students who were all young girls of wealthy and noble families, and it was said that she was well liked by both students and staff at her new school. What was odd about Emily is that she would be seen by the students in two different places at the same time. One group of students would say they could see her in one location, while another group said that they could see her at the same time in a complete different side of the school. One day, in front of a class of 13 girls, Emily's exact double appeared right beside her while she was writing a lesson on the chalkboard. Her double mirrored her exact movements, but without chalk in its hand. In another instance, Miss Sige was helping a girl fasten her dress in the mirror, and the girl looked at their reflection not only to see herself and the teacher, but also Miss Sige's double, who was once again doing the same thing, mirroring what Emily was doing, but just without a girl in front of her. The most notable incident occurred in front of all 42 students. On this day, all the girls were in one room together to practice their embroidery. There were large glass doors that led outside to where they could all see Miss Sige in the garden picking flowers. The embroidery teacher who was leading the class left her chair in the room for only a moment. Shortly after the teacher left the room, Miss Sige appeared in the head chair. What was odd is that while the students could see Emily sitting in front of them, they could also still see her outside continuing to pick flowers. Students also noted that Emily outside was moving slower than the Emily inside, as if she were really tired. Two of the girls were brave enough to approach the other Sige at the head of the table. They touched the teacher and described it to feel like a fabric of fine muslin. And then the Emily that was in front of them disappeared, and the real Sige in the garden seemed to snap out of her daze and continue picking flowers. The peculiar apparitions appeared frequently and at random for the short time Sige taught at this school. The other Sige was never far from the real one and never appeared somewhere without the real one nearby. Some of the students found the apparitions unsettling, and their parents began to worry about leaving them in the care of the school and especially in the care of Miss Sige. A number of students did not return to the school after the holidays, but the directors were determined to let Miss Sige keep her job, as she was a wonderful teacher and didn't deserve to be fired over something out of her control. However, the attendance of the school eventually fell from 42 to 12 girls after 18 months of Miss Sige's employment, so the directors had no choice but to let her go. When this occurred, she was incredibly upset and disclosed that this was her 19th time being dismissed from a teaching position. She had previously been employed at 18 different schools that had praised her teaching abilities, but always parted ways for undisclosed reasons. Sige left the school and moved in with her sister-in-law and young children. Her double followed and continued to appear at random, as witnessed by her nieces and nephews who would exclaim that there were two Aunt Emilys. She then moved to Russia and was never heard of again. So her case led me to also wonder a few different things about doppelgangers. Could a doppelganger actually be a version of yourself, what I just mentioned, the evil timeline, other world? And if so, what are the odds they come into our world to take over that person's life? So I kind of mentioned this a second ago before this story.
Yeah. For that story, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because she disappeared and was never seen again.
Yeah. And she didn't die, but she never saw her own doppelganger.
Right.
Which almost is like maybe it's more of a mimic.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into mimics in just a sec, but maybe it's more of a mimicking situation and less of a doppelganger situation.
Yeah. Could be.
And that's where it's like, what would the doppelganger get for coming into your life? Or why hadn't it taken over her life already after 18 different schools?
Right. You've already ruined everything for her.
You've already made her life really shitty.
And only for kids to see it is really creepy too.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. That's like demonic type stuff. That's like an attachment or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Still creepy. So our next person who has their double visit them is Catherine the Great. She is remembered as the longest reigning woman to ever sit on the Russian throne. With all of that aside, Catherine was a strong and formidable woman that you would not want to mess with. So let me tell you the story of something that she couldn't stop nor control. The story of her fate began late one evening. Catherine was resting in her chambers when a group of terrified servants rushed in. Their faces were pale and their voices were shaking. They insisted they had just seen the Empress enter the throne room and sit upon her throne. The problem was, Catherine hadn't left her bed. Unwilling to be thought weak or superstitious, Catherine went to investigate the claim herself. When she entered the throne room, what she saw was chilling. Seated calmly on the throne was another Catherine. This spectral double looked exactly like her in every detail. Catherine was always bold, so she did not flee. Instead, she commanded her guards to open fire on the figure. Muskets rang out across the chamber, and when the smoke cleared, the double had vanished without a trace. The throne was empty once again. Not long afterward, Catherine the Great collapsed from a massive stroke. She slipped into a coma, and by the next evening, the reign of Russia's most powerful empress had come to its end. Her doppelganger had not been a mere trick of the eye, but a warning, a glimpse of death that had appeared to claim her throne. So that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what I would do. I mean, how she's like, fire upon this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, that is brave. Because I would have been like,
very brave.
Everybody run.
Yeah, everybody get out. I
Yeah.
don't think that trying to kill it would be the best course of action. I mean, maybe.
I don't think I would have thought. But I mean, she also was merciless. She did things like that on a daily basis. So I wouldn't say daily basis, but that was more in the forefront of her mind, I guess. For me, it's like, I wouldn't think about that, but I also don't just like randomly think about doing that every day. So
ordering my firing squad onto somebody.
yeah, I don't really think about that.
Yeah.
So I guess I could see where that wouldn't be my first
Correct.
line of reasoning.
Same.
But another royal to experience seeing their double was Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I was daughter of King Henry VIII. who ruled England from 1558 until her death in 1603. Elizabeth was said to have received a chilling preview of her death by the way of her own doppelganger. One night, the queen reportedly saw herself lying motionless in her bedchamber, stretched out like a corpse prepared for burial. This ghostly twin was described as ghastly pale and drained of life. Elizabeth was not a woman easily swayed by superstition or fear, yet the vision stuck with her. She knew what she was seeing and what it meant for her. Within only a few days, the premonition revealed itself to be true. On March 24th, 1603, after more than 4 decades on the throne, Queen Elizabeth passed away at the age of 69.
That's weird that she had the same type vision of seeing herself like prepared for death, like burial.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do in any of these situations. But one of the things that stuck out with me with all these royals and historical people that saw their doppelgangers is that there was quite a few accounts of them. Like there was more than just these people on historical people who have seen themselves. Like they openly tell somebody like, hey, I saw my doppelganger.
Yeah.
And even in a few instances, other people saw the doppelganger with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they died. But today, trying to find a story like a modern day story of that same type of doppelganger story is like impossible to find. I couldn't find where someone had written, I saw my own doppelganger, or had told someone that they saw their doppelganger and then died. And so part of it is, I wonder if back then, especially how they kept mentioning like in Catherine's story, it was about like how she was like superstitious. She knew. What am I thinking? That was Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth was superstitious. She knew. Catherine was trying not to be superstitious, but she knew. And so it's almost like I wonder if there's some sort of lack of superstition that's in today's society compared to back then. But back then, religion was so much stronger. So many people were more religious. Superstition was a lot stronger. And so I wonder if that plays a part in why there was so many accounts of it then as opposed to now. Because now it's more stories of like more mimicry. There's not, which people still call them doppelgangers as well. But it's not the same kind of doppelgangers.
Yeah, because when you think of a doppelganger, you think you see yourself and then
you die.
It's an omen.
Yeah.
Rather, a mimic is something who's just copying your
your like everyday life.
For what reason? Still unbeknownst to me, but
we don't know.
That's a big word.
Unbeknownst. 2 claps. But I do wonder if it has something to do with the difference in like religion, superstition on why. Or because people today might still be seeing their doppelganger, but don't know what it means. And so they don't mention it to anybody, or they're like, oh, I'm just in my head. Like I'm just jacking around with myself. Like they might not take it as seriously because they don't know the lore behind it.
And then they die and we never know.
Yeah. And so regardless, people today are still experiencing strange phenomenon like doppelgangers, but they are calling it mimics. So mimics are entities that impersonate people, voices, or even noises. Mimics are often associated with evil beings or tricksters, which seems a little bit different than doppelgangers to me because none of the doppelganger stories seemed really malicious. It just seemed like, hey, I'm warning you, you're going to die. Yeah. But it wasn't like them being actively mean or, it might be scary as hell, but it wasn't something like mean.
Yeah.
But a lot of the mimic stories are more terrifying and more scary. Mm-hmm. So
more malicious.
They definitely seem a little bit more scary and whatever. So I do think that they are different things. I do think doppelgangers and mimics are not the same type of entity, but they are still grouped together and they still do a lot of the same things. I think there could be a point where they are the same thing. I'm not really sure. So it's hard, but that's why I grouped them together. We're doing an episode over doppelgangers and mimics because they do a lot of the same thing so like Miss Emily Sige, hers seems more like a mimic to me than a doppelganger because she didn't see it herself.
Yeah.
I don't know though. That's where my brain is like,
It could be either way.
Yeah, I'm like, we need y'all to give us your opinions. You need to email them to us.
Yeah.
Or something. So, with this, my first 2 stories are actually my brother's stories. And what is also super exciting is by the time this episode comes out, my brother will have had his first little baby.
Aww.
I know.
That's cute to think about.
I know. Little Cooper will be born by the time this episode comes out. So I don't know when my brother will actually listen to this. My brother, he normally does listen.
Yeah.
But I assume with a newborn baby and it's their first kid, he will not be listening as adamantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll have another little nephew in my little clan.
Cute.
I know. I'm so excited.
I love it.
But these 2 stories are about my brother. These are my brother's stories. So the first one, I don't even have to read it, guys. I can just tell it to you. Woohoo. So I have sworn up and down forever and a day. If you've listened to this podcast this whole time, then which someone actually emailed us the other day and was like, I am so confused by your family dynamic. Y'all say y'all are sisters and then you have a brother and then you have this or whatever. So if you're new here, let me break it down very quickly, very succinct. I'm not spending a lot of time on this. Our parents got married when she was 4 months old and I was 3 months old. So we are the exact same age. We're a month and a day apart. Our parents got divorced. Her mom had her, my dad had me, then they got married with different people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were step. And then our parents got divorced when we were like 13.
11.
Oh, I don't know. I always thought it was like 6th grade, which is like 12.
11, 12. Yeah.
In the
so
middle.
12, 13. Yeah.
Our parents got divorced when we were like 6th grade, but she still came to my dad's house and I still went with her to her mom's house. Like we've just always stayed close. So then we do still have families separately from that. Her mom got remarried.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad has a son
Mm-hmm.
also. So like we all have this different thing. I had a different set of parents that helped raise me. My mom has different kids. So we do have siblings that are not the same. We're the only ones that are like siblings together.
Yeah, because we were step.
Yeah. So it's very a weird dynamic, but we're still sisters and we still, yeah.
Yep.
So Caden is all just my brother. And because someone asked, they were like, I'm so confused right now. So hopefully that helped a little bit. But Caden is my
Catch up.
brother. Yeah. I'm like,
There's a lot. There's a lot.
there's more. But Caden is my brother and his dad helped raise me. So I call his dad as well. So I went to their house a lot as well. So I had my mom's house and then I'd go to my dad's house where she was, which was my real dad. And then I had Dad Mantha who helped raise me as well. So I was raised between 3 houses. So Dad Mantha's house, I always swore up and down that it was freaking haunted.
Mm-hmm.
It's still to this day, they live in the same house. And I'm like, your house, I will not go in their house alone, hardly at all. Like, and if I do, I'm like, whoop, 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 like quick. Their house scares me still. But Caden and Dad were in the kitchen one night. And I think it was just Caden, Dad, and Mantha that were at home. And Dad and Caden and Mantha were in the kitchen. They were making dinner, getting everything ready. And then Mantha said, hey, I'm going to go take a shower, whatever. So Dad and Caden were in the kitchen still talking. And they heard Mantha say, hey, or I think she said like, hey, or guys, or something like that. And they both said like, what? And then she never answered. And when she finally got out of the shower and came back in there, they were like, what did you want? Like, what? And she was like, I didn't say anything to y'all. Like,
Never said a word.
never said a word. And Dad was like, oh yeah. Yeah, I didn't hear anything. And Caden was like, you literally said what too? Like you responded. But Dad and Mantha, I don't know if they truly don't believe that there's anything in their house or if they just don't want to believe anything in their house. But they're like, my house is not haunted. Nothing's ever wrong here. And then another time, so something there mimicked Mantha. And in that instance was mimicking Mantha. Another time, Caden's room was at the very end of the house at the hallway. And like literally you walk right out his door and you turn right and you're in the laundry room and then in the garage. And I graduated from high school. So he was in college, but he didn't have to be at his college class till like 9 or something like that. So he didn't have to wake up and leave as early as you would for high school. And so Mantha would wake him up on her way out and be like, hey, you should get up. Like I'm going to work. You need to get to school.
Yeah.
And one morning he heard her heels because it was hardwood floor. He heard her heels coming down the hallway. And then he could hear the pressure of like his door opening because you can hear that, you know, the change.
Yeah.
He heard that. He heard her footprints like at the beginning of the carpet. And he like jumped up like, I'm awake. And no one was there. And it scared the ever living shit out of him. And then he like slowly got his thoughts together and he was like, yeah, she's already woken me up. I've already heard her leave. Like, cause you can hear the garage door from his room. And he said he grabbed like everything and left and
Just
like
ran.
got ready like in his vehicle.
He's like, I gotta go.
Yeah,
Can't
so
be here
something
alone.
like mimicked her high heel sound still and like the process of waking him up.
Something. There was both Mantha both times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell no.
But what's creepy to me is Dad and Mantha are like, nothing happens in this house when y'all aren't here. When either me or Caden aren't there.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, maybe it's us.
Maybe it's y'all.
Because everywhere I've lived, I've always been like, something's a little jacked up.
Mhm.
And Caden doesn't really think that far anymore. There's been a couple places where he's like, he had a really bad dream, things like that. But I still have like weird stuff happen to me a lot. But yeah, so Mantha and Dad and Mantha are like, but they're like, nothing happens here. Nothing ever happens here. And I'm like, but I bet.
I think y'all are in
guarantee."
denial.
Yeah. Because the TVs in there, at that house, the TVs used to turn on and off by themselves, mainly Caden's in his room. And it didn't happen for so many years. And then I stayed the night there one time during college and it happened in the middle of the night there and to me in my room. And I was like, oh, I thought y'all said nothing ever happens. So like there's times I'll go over there and Dad will be like, well, you can just stay the night. Like I would already have, like I'd take a little dog with me and we'd be over there and he's like, just stay the night. And I'd be like, no. I've only stayed the night there like one time, and it was because it was storming really bad or something like that, to where I was like, I don't need to go home.
Yeah.
And I got no sleep. None.
You're like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
I'm just here.
Yeah, I got none. No sleep. And for whatever reason, I had to sleep in Caden's room. I don't know why I had to sleep in his room. I don't know if there was something in my old room why I couldn't sleep in there, but his room is the room that scared me the most. His room was the most, that had like the most activity in it.
And what does Caden think?
Caden was like, Caden still thinks their house is jacked up. Caden's like, y'all's house is jacked.
Would he know, would he have known that it was possibly could have been a doppelganger or mimic, or?
Not back then, probably. But I've asked him about these stories again before. I told him again, I was like, I need you to make sure I'm saying them right.
Yeah.
And it just weirded him out. He was like, I know Mantha said something. Like, I know something sounded like Mantha and said something. And then it's the same action of her walking down the hallway.
Like she normally would. Yeah.
But okay, so this next story is about a sister having an experience with her sister. So I was coming out of the bathroom and into the hallway. When exiting the bathroom, there was a door to the left of me. I felt like I needed to look in that direction, like I was being drawn there. And when I slowly turned to look left, I could see my sister peeking out from the open door. But all I could see was her eyes and the top of her head, like she was coming from like the side of the door, if that makes sense. She held eye contact with me until I blinked, and as soon as I opened my eyes, she was gone. Something about her vanishing just didn't feel right, so I ran away down the hall. My mom said she had also seen my sister in a room down the hallway once. She was sitting on the sofa with her back turned to our mom, so all you could see was the back of her head. Mom was talking to her for a while, completely unaware that my real sister was actually in her room upstairs. My mom didn't even realize that until my sister from upstairs started calling to my mom downstairs. There was a lot of strange activity in that house while living there, but my sister, when she moved out, had no more paranoia, no more bad nightmares, no more panic attacks, and there was no more activity or apparitions when she moved out either. So it was like the sister had a mimic.
Had its own, had her own thing. Like, so like specifically.
Like how Mantha potentially has a mimic.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
So that's creepy. The next story. For backstory, we have a very small family. It's just my mom, me, and my father. My father worked from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., so he wasn't home very often. And my mother taught at a local preschool, so she was home by 1 p.m., which is generally when I got home from school as well. One day, I came home from school and yelled out for my mom, but I got no reply. I went to her bedroom to check if she was in there and saw her sleeping. I figured she must be tired, and I decided to take a nap with her. Once I laid down beside her, she started stroking my hair but didn't say anything. It was very soothing, and I fell asleep quick. After about 30 minutes, I woke up from the doorbell ringing. When I got up, I saw that my mom wasn't in bed beside me anymore. I went and opened the door only to find my mom standing there, still in her work clothes. She could see the confusion on my face and frantically apologized to me for being late. So she laid down with what she thought was her mom, and it started petting her hair.
Oh, I remember this story.
Yes. It started petting her hair, and then it wasn't there when she woke up, and her real mom was standing at the front door like, sorry, I'm late from work.
She's like, no, girl, you were right here sleeping.
Yeah, you were just in bed petting my head.
Ooh.
That reminds me of this story where she's, it's just like the old story of, like the Don't Be Afraid of the Dark stories or whatever, about the dog licking the hand. And it's like, aren't you happy you didn't turn the lights on in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
And it's like, humans can lick too or something like that.
Oh, gross.
What would you do though? If that was like, if you thought you were laying in bed with your mom and she was petting your hair and like soothing you to sleep, and then you woke up and she was not even had to actually.
I'd probably vomit first.
My first step.
First step would be to throw up.
Second step would be burn the house down.
Yeah. Run away. And live in a closet.
Live in a closet. The running away, don't know why, made me think of No David when he's running down the road with his butt hanging out. Just the back of his bald ass head.
And his booty cheeks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. So this next story is my daughter and I live in a small town in South Dakota. She leaves every Friday afternoon and comes back Sunday evenings from visits with her dad. So she'll usually be gone by the time I get home from work on Friday evenings. This particular Friday, when I pulled up into our driveway, I looked up at her window and noticed her bedroom light was still on. I just figured she accidentally left it on before leaving for her father's. When I walked into the house, I heard movement coming from upstairs, which made me think that she may be still home. I went upstairs and knocked on her bedroom door and said, "Your dad isn't picking you up this weekend?" "No, I told him I want to stay home," she said while looking down at her journal. "Great, I'll make dinner for us and we can watch a movie if you'd like." There was a long pause before she said yes. I closed her door and thought to myself she was acting a bit standoffish because she usually has a lot more to say. I texted her dad asking if they got into some sort of argument or disagreement that led her to not wanting to go home with him this weekend. Then I started making dinner for us. As the food was cooking, I started organizing things around the house, and I noticed Olivia's book bag and coat weren't hung where they usually are. Maybe she just took her things up to her room. No big deal. I went into the living room and saw Olivia sitting on the couch facing away from me. I didn't even hear her coming down the stairs, so her sitting there kind of startled me. It was also strange because she was just sitting there, not on her phone or with the TV on, which was unusual. Whatever. Maybe her dad really put her in a bad mood. I walked back into the kitchen and stirred dinner. I then yelled from the kitchen and asked if she could pick out a movie for us to watch while we eat dinner. She didn't respond, so I went out to check what movie she was picking, and to my surprise, the TV was still off and she was just sitting there, motionless. I took the remote and picked out a movie, then grabbed our plates and sat down on the couch. Once I sat down, I heard a notification come from my phone in the kitchen. I went and grabbed my phone, and to no surprise, it was a text from her father. After reading his message, my body went cold and stiff. His text read, "What do you mean? I picked up Olivia and we're grabbing dinner with her grandma right now." I felt catatonic at that point. I took a deep breath and walked slowly towards the living room. I peeked to see if it was still on the couch. It was. It was just sitting there, very still, looking forward away from me. I realized I haven't seen Olivia's face since I've been home, almost as if the thing had purposely been avoiding eye contact. I took a deep breath and got the courage to walk out confidently, like everything was normal, and it was gone. I heard it coming from upstairs, sounding just like my Olivia. It said, "Mom, I'm upstairs. I need your help," in the most sinister voice. I grabbed my keys and ran out of the house. As I reversed out of my driveway, I looked up at the house, and in Olivia's window, it stood there, staring at me without a face.
Ew. I hate that.
I don't like the idea of seeing someone that you think is someone and it's not someone. Like,
yeah.
And it's your daily routine. It's your daughter sitting on your couch. It's your husband sitting on his couch. Like, it's my husband cooking dinner. Like, it's the usual routine that you see. And then all of a sudden it's not actually them.
Mm-hmm. And you don't realize.
Yeah. Like, if you walked in right now and Damien was sitting there just staring at you and not saying anything, you'd be like, hello?
Hello?
Like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Or if he just was sitting there just,
yeah,
like, scary smiling.
I wonder what it is about, like, the voice thing, like, that you can hear them talk if you can't see them.
Yeah. Well, I've also heard that I don't know, like I said, if it's the difference of a skinwalker, shapeshifter, mimic, or doppelganger. I don't know what the difference is in all of these, but I know one of these four things, like one of these entities or people, they can only mimic words they've heard you say. So I think it might be a mimic. They can only say what they've heard you say before. So that mimic could only say certain words that it's heard the daughter say before.
So it can't just have like a new conversation.
Yeah, it can't just randomly start talking about something.
Yeah.
So if you say you and Damien, sorry, this is, I guess, a scary thought. Maybe I'll go to me and Aaron so it doesn't scare you as bad. Say it's me and Aaron and we've talked, but we've only talked about the color of the vehicles that day. But then he goes and he's talking to like my mimic and he's trying to talk to me about a different category that the mimic hadn't heard me say anything about. I wouldn't have very many answers either. I might have a yeah or a yes because I say yeah and yes in most sentences.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have, like, my mimic wouldn't have a variety of words to choose from. So that might be why her daughter didn't have very much to say. Like,
other than
like
I'm
she normally
upstairs.
does, because it doesn't match with what her daughter would normally say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, she had never heard, the mimic hadn't
Those
heard her
other
daughter say
words.
those words.
Yeah.
I've never really heard of the mimic being like faceless though either. So that's new,
Yeah.
but very creepy as well.
Yeah. Very.
I just can imagine Aaron's going to listen to this episode and he's going to really take off with it.
Mm-hmm. He's going to love it.
Yeah. So wives on here, because the majority of our listeners are women, don't share this episode with your spouse. I mean, do, but don't, because they're going to torment you. Mine's going to torment me. I don't know if Damien started to listen. He listens randomly, I think.
He listens very randomly.
So he won't torment you unless I secretly message him and tell him to, which I might because I'm an asshole.
He's definitely done it before.
Yeah, Aaron has too, just because he knows how I am. He's like, I'm going to scare this bitch
I'm gonna
today.
scare her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
And
just like, what possessed you to do that?
Genuinely.
Why did you think that was a good idea?
What made you think that you should crawl out of the bed when I'm going to the bathroom in the middle of the night
Yeah.
and stand there?
And stand there and stare at me.
What makes you think that's a good idea?
That is just un-okay behavior.
I'm going to start doing it back.
You should.
But the problem is
We're
I sleep
retaliating.
a lot more than my husband. And my husband tends to scare me when I'm already asleep. Like, I wake up to him staring at me, or wake up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and he gets out of bed and stands in a corner and thinks it's ha 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 hilarious.
It's just not okay.
No, throat punch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's normally me asleep. He's always awake. I'm like, go to sleep so I can wake you up staring at you. But my husband's also a giant man, and I'm like, he's gonna deck me in the face. He's not gonna do it on purpose. But he's gonna take my ass out. I do not want to be punched by him.
Oops.
Yeah, hell no.
Hell no.
Anyways, we've got just a few more stories, but they're quick stories. So we stayed in this extremely old and creepy cabin in Montana. It was in the middle of nowhere, and it was so old that it didn't even have a bathroom, just an outhouse. There was a rope that went from the cabin to the outhouse so you could navigate back and forth through the dark of night.
Absolutely not.
I would be peeing my bed.
Yeah, no.
Peeing in the sink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there was the cabin was super unsettling and had strange details about it. The strangest being that there was a really tall bed in the upstairs loft where you had to climb stairs to get on the bed, and under the bed was a child-sized door that locked from the outside. Just very bizarre. So one night, my mom's dead asleep and suddenly wakes up out of the blue feeling very afraid. She opens her eyes to find my stepdad lying next to her, staring at her with freakishly wide eyes and a scary grin. She said he looked terrifying. My stepdad said, "How are you feeling?" Which makes sense because since the first day we got there, she was feeling very sick. As soon as he muttered this, she heard footsteps coming from the stairs. So she turned around and found none other than my stepdad. He had gone downstairs to use the outhouse and was confused when she told him what had just happened. She turned back to see who was in bed with her, but no one was there. It scared the shit out of her, and we left the next morning. Not shockingly, she felt better within hours of getting on the road. So she was upstairs sleeping on that creepy ass bed.
Yeah.
Feeling sick the whole time. Sees this mimic of her husband, and then they leave and she's fine again.
That's just bad energy, man.
No, if I was talking to my husband and then he like opened the back door, like if he was standing in the kitchen talking to me and then he just like opened the back door, walked out of the bedroom, I'm losing it.
What do you mean? Yeah.
I'm losing it. I would genuinely think I was losing my marbles.
Mm-hmm.
But this also, y'all need to go listen to, because we had a listener send in her story about her dog.
Yes. Whenever you started talking about the mimics, I was like, oh yeah, we had one.
Yeah.
That one was creepy.
And it was either like a glitch in time or a mimic. But it was her dog playing fetch with her, basically. Or like playing a game with her that they played all the time. One sec, I'll tell you what episode it was, because you need to go listen to her story. It's episode 39. I have her story as story number 2 at 11 minutes. So 11 minutes and 30 seconds, story number 2, episode 39. It's the story of her playing a game with her dog, and then her dog all of a sudden walks through the doggy door.
Mm-hmm.
Very scary. You got to go listen to it. Okay. Next story. I want to preface this by saying that everyone in the household except my mother has seen, heard, or experienced something weird in our house on multiple different occasions. Our house is as old as I am, so it has no history and should not warrant any of these experiences. When I was in my sophomore year, I came home and I went to my room. It was sometime after 3:30 p.m., so there was still daylight outside. The path to my bedroom is a short hallway where my sister's room and a bathroom are across from one another before reaching my room. So I imagine her room is like the end of the hallway, and then on the hallway, one to the left of you would be like a bedroom, and to the right of you would be like a bathroom door. So she says, my sister had moved out from college, so she wasn't there anymore, but I always got a feeling of being watched from her room, whether she was there or not. I have never seen or heard anything, though, just the feeling was prevalent. I even avoided looking in her room because it creeped me out so much. But our family dog liked to sleep in her room, so I figured nothing too bad was around. On this day, I dared to glance into the room as I walked past it, and my eye caught movement from the closet door that wasn't shut all the way. It opened a little bit, and I saw a person peeking out at me. I stopped and froze for a few seconds, and the door opened a little bit more. The person I saw looked a lot like me. It had my body shape and hair, but where the face should have been, just blank pale skin. No eyes, no nose, or mouth. It wore clothes that reminded me of my sister, not ones I would wear. I remember the shirt had a stripe or a pattern on it when I only really usually wear graphic tees. So it was like it had combined my body with my sister's clothes. I panicked and bolted to my room, closing the door behind me and hid under my bed sheets. I told it out loud to go away, and I prayed in my mind I wouldn't see it again, and I haven't since. The feeling of being watched from my sister's former bedroom kind of went away after that. It's like it was watching us for years and years in an effort to copy me or my sister. I don't like how it merged the two together.
Yeah, that's really creepy.
And how it
it's like creating its own thing.
Yeah, and like how it peeked out at her and saw she was looking and like came further out instead of like receding.
The exact like scene that I picture is Murphy's old bedroom from your first house.
Yes, and I have nightmares.
In that closet.
I
at the back
still
of the
have
room.
nightmares about her closet.
Yeah.
I genuinely have nightmares about that room. And I never had a weird, really feeling in our in our house. Like I never really, I would have weird dreams in our house. Like I normally slept with my brother or my sister. I never slept in my own room ever. I'd slept with my brother, my sister, and my mom. And I think that night I had fallen asleep. I don't know whose room I was in. I'd fallen asleep in one of their rooms and I was walking to my mom's room in the middle of the night. And I had a reoccurring like thing where when I would walk to my mom's room, I would see an army man asleep on our living room couch, like a man in his uniform asleep on our couch.
Oh yeah, you've told me that before. That's so weird.
I had that dream multiple times and I don't know why, but yeah, no, her room, I have nightmares about it and nothing
so weird,
ever happened.
When you
to
tell me that story, that's the exact room that I'm thinking of.
That's creepy.
Maybe just because of the way that your room was at the end and then her room and Caden's room was right there.
This is my last story. So this happened to me about 2 years ago around late December of 2020. Me and my girlfriend were at my grandparents' place having a couple of drinks out in the garage until it got too cold to stay out there. It was one of the coldest nights of the year and there was a bad blizzard that night. We both went back into the house at around 2 a.m. My girlfriend went into my room and I went out into the kitchen to cook something for us. I was on my phone standing alone in the kitchen when my grandma and my girlfriend both walked in together. It was a bit strange because my grandma was never up that late, and it was even stranger that my girlfriend had came into the room at the exact same time. The first thing my grandma said to me is, "Don't go back out there tonight. On a night like this, people lose their lives." I was a little bit freaked out because I was just about to head back out to grab something, but I hadn't told anyone I was going to do that. My girlfriend and my grandma just stood there staring at me with the weirdest expressions I've ever seen. My girlfriend then walked over and gave me a hug, and when I hugged her back, she was ice cold. I commented about how cold she felt and her expression changed. Her smile faded and she looked up at me with really serious, sad eyes and didn't say anything. There was something else I noticed too. She smelled like a campfire. There wasn't an explanation for this, and she didn't smell like that earlier. I swear in that moment I got chills all over. There was something so off about it all, but I couldn't put my finger on it. My girlfriend whispered in my ear, "Don't go outside tonight." Then she walked back over to my grandma. She stood beside her with her head down and a serious expression on her face, while my grandma was still staring at me with the same weird fake smile. It was so bizarre, and I just stood there speechless. The wind began to literally howl outside. Then my grandma turned and looked at my girlfriend and said, "Don't mess with black magic. Nothing good is going to come of it." My girlfriend didn't say anything. She just continued looking down. Then my girlfriend looked up at me and said, "We have to go now." They both started walking away, and my grandma looked back at me for a second before saying, "See you on the flip side." I got another chill through my whole body when she said that. They turned the corner and left the kitchen. I stood there for a while. I didn't know what to make of it all. I decided not to go out to the garage and that I'd go get my stuff the next morning. I finished cooking our meal, then took our plates into the bedroom. My girlfriend was in bed and picking out a movie. I guess I was quiet because she asked me what's wrong. It took me about 10 minutes to say something because I was still so frightened by all of it. I eventually turned to her and asked her why her and my grandmother came into the kitchen. The second I asked this, my nose started bleeding. As you can guess, she said that she never went into the kitchen and she swore on someone else's life she was in the bedroom the whole time. She also didn't smell like smoke anymore. We went into my grandma's bedroom and woke her up, and I asked her the same thing. She actually thought we were trying to mess with her, and she didn't believe me. We were so freaked out after this, we had trouble sleeping for the rest of the night. The part that really messed my girlfriend up was when I told her about how cold she felt and how she smelled like smoke. The only explanation we could come up with was that maybe if I went outside that night, something bad would have happened to me, and that maybe the spirits of my dead relatives were watching over me and came to me in that form so I wouldn't be scared. The last part of it that made sense was the part about the black magic. My girlfriend had just gotten a book about witchcraft from her friend the week prior. My girlfriend never opened the book again and took this all as a warning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very much a warning.
Yeah,
sure.
I want to know what kind of but that's where it's like, well, if it was her relatives, so are mimics any entity? Can any entity mimic you? If that's their thought process, that it was like a relevant or a relative to take on their form to bring him or her comfort.
That's true.
So could a mimic be any entity?
I feel more like a mimic could be any entity, yes.
And then you think a doppelganger is more of like its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still believe that.
So what do we think our differences are between doppelgangers and mimics?
I feel like I've been thinking about this the whole time. I feel like that the mimics, first of all, can be anybody. Mm-hmm. But I feel like more people see a mimic as somebody else that they know closely, like that they know well.
Yeah.
And they can't explain that. But the doppelganger is more of you seeing yourself. Rather than like if I saw your doppelganger, to me, that wouldn't be a doppelganger. That would be a mimic.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
that's why they have to be different.
So almost like a perspective thing.
Yeah.
It's like a perspective is like me seeing myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. I'm going to die.
Mm-hmm.
But then you see me and you're like, that's just weird.
Yeah. It's
But
just
then,
a curious.
So I guess, yeah, curious. Yeah.
Entity.
I guess mimics could maybe get energy just from us ourselves, like demons do and stuff.
Mhm.
But I don't know what the conjuring of a mimic would be. Like, I don't know what would start the process for a mimic to come into the world.
I feel like it could be the same as any entity.
Just there already, kind of.
Yeah,
You just
they
kinda
could just
draw
be
it.
there. It could be some kind of attachment. It could be a just residual energies.
Yeah.
Could be summoned via, spiritualism, Ouija board, whatever.
Yeah.
Summoning, seance.
So it's
all
just
the
any
things.
entity that comes in and wants to kind of be like, haha,
And they can take that form if that's
what they want to do.
what they want to do. And as far as like a doppelganger goes, I still don't understand. I have the same question that you just asked. How does a doppelganger come about?
Yeah.
And how does that energy surround itself to you?
Yeah.
And why?
See, I think my thing on doppelgangers, I think my thought process for them is I still feel like a doppelganger might be some sort of like version of yourself, basically warning yourself. Like, I still think it's some sort of version of you coming back to warn yourself. I think that's where my head is with doppelgangers.
Mm-hmm.
I think. But a mimic is like what you're saying, just any entity that wants to kind of mess around with you and joke with you and do whatever. So I think they are separate things that do a lot of the same things. But I do think a doppelganger for me, I don't think it's an entity because I don't feel like entities normally know, like demonic ones, I feel like know more and maybe the future, but I'm not sure about that. I'd have to do more research there. But I do still think that doppelgangers, I guess for me, is a version of yourself coming back to warn you.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've already lived it. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily you in another timeline, but it kind of makes me think of like the ghost of Christmas present, past, future, whatever, and you can like come back and see what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's something around that.
That's true.
Still very strange. Still hard to wrap my head around.
I can agree pieces of that as well. The only thing that I think that I deviate from that is because they don't communicate well. They don't communicate like a mimic can.
No, they don't normally talk at all.
Right. And it's just that one or two times that you see them or you see yourself dead, you're not getting that much information.
No.
You just know that that's
a warning.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
So I'm very curious about them because there's still, we obviously don't know that much, but it's a very curious experience, I think.
And even when you research like what is a doppelganger, it is so many people have so many different theories that there's nothing like definitive nailed down.
Yeah.
All it is really saying like it's an entity. What kind of entity? We don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and there's not like people who necessarily like study doppelgangers. Like, you have people who do, like spirituality things like ghost hunters and priests and things like that like know like demonologies and those types of things, like those types of studies have things that you can feel a little bit more definitive about.
Yeah, a little bit like scientific based kind of ish.
Versus something like this where it's like, it's up to interpretation.
Yeah. And I think doppelganger in like German, I think it means double walker.
Oh, yeah.
So even that but that still doesn't give you a lot of, because that could go for mimic too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still just like, what? Yeah.
Where do we come from? What are we doing?
Yeah, what are we doing here? But I guess if y'all have theories, feel free to email them to us at sisterofthestrangepodcast@gmail.com.
What is the origin of a freaking doppelganger?
It started as a thing called I want to say like a finch or a fetch in France is where like its first origins began, and then it moved into double walker German, and then it moved to doppelganger in America.
Okay.
But I think it's the same thing. It's like you see yourself and you're going to die. It's a bad omen.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. That's what the double walker German stuff started as.
That's why I'm like, there had to have been something. It had to have been started from somewhere for it to get its own name.
Yeah, I think it was as a fetch in France in like the 1700s or something like that. And then it migrated into German, double walker, doppelganger, and then now America. So that's what a lot of those stories were, European stories. So started there, moved here, but everything started there, moved here. But yeah, that's the baseline.
Interesting. Okay.
But we also have a Discord that you can join, that you can put theories, memes. There's all sorts of different channels in the Discord. You can go join it. You can access it through our bios. We have a linked tree there that has access to everything. Anything else? Do you have any more questions on it?
I don't. I mean, yeah, but
I feel like it's a topic we'll cover again one day, like come back to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like after I research, I think after I do more skinwalker stuff, after I do more research on other things that are all kind of in the same pattern, but also like listener stories, we'll get more listener stories with doppelgangers or with I think a doppelganger encounter still to me is just, you seeing yourself. So there might be people who have seen themselves and they're still alive.
True.
There might be.
They may not have died yet.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait for someone to send us a story like that though, because I couldn't find any like that.
Yeah.
But I think we'll get more stories that will help us be able to better understand what it is we think. Because right now, a lot of our stories are just off of like small research and thinking. But I think the more listener stories we get and read, the more our minds will change or set in certain directions.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
So
we need those.
Yeah. We've gotten, I think we have like 5 more stories right now waiting. We've got like a Ouija board story waiting. That's the same guy who's asked us, what is your family dynamic?
Oh.
Yeah, so they sent us their story. I haven't opened it yet, but we've got some stories waiting that I have not. We've got 5 unopened emails. Let's say that.
Sweet.
I've opened other ones and categorized them, but I have not opened those because it's been crazy pants in my life lately. But
yeah, I don't have anything else.
Okay, well,
I don't think.
Feel free to send your stories to us. Feel free to get in the Discord and come up with theories, thoughts. We talk in the Discord. I saw you were talking in it last. You were messaging back and forth with people. So we do go in there. Shae has a friend that kind of runs a lot of it for us too. So she's kind of higher up and she, I think, is in there quite a bit too. I feel like anytime we've posted, she's been in there.
Yeah. Alyssa.
Yes. So she runs a lot of it as well. And she helps us out. So go talk to her too. She's got a good source as well.
Yeah. She's fun.
So yeah, I guess we'll see you next week.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.